I knew Christmas dinner was going to be a disaster the moment I stepped inside. Not because I was paranoid, but because I had been through this exact cycle every single year. And this time, I wasn't going to let them walk all over me. My parents' house was the kind of place that looked perfect in photos. A massive, old Victorian mansion, decorated to perfection. A Christmas tree so big it could be in a magazine. But behind the picture-perfect decorations, the house was cold. Not because of the winter air, but because of the people inside it. I had always felt like an outsider in my own family. The youngest of four. The only one not married with kids. The one who always had to prove I belonged. I was 28 years old. I had a career I worked my ass off for. I had financial independence. I had a life outside of their expectations. But to them, I was still the baby, and they made sure I never forgot it. Christmas dinner was mandatory, not because we loved each other and genuinely wanted to spend time together, but because my parents were obsessed with appearances. Everything had to look perfect. The perfect family gathering. The perfect meal. The perfect Christmas card moment. Even if it was all fake. And like an idiot, I showed up hoping this year would be different. I should have known better. I walked in, shaking off the cold. My mom greeted me with her usual fake warmth. "Maya, sweetie. So glad you could make it." I smiled. Forced. My siblings were already there. Chris, my oldest brother. Married. 3 kids. Acts like he's the second in command of the family. Amy, my sister. Married. 1 baby. Perfect and polished in every way. Parents treat me like I'm stuck in time while worshiping my siblings for following the correct life path. I took a deep breath. Where should I sit? I asked, glancing at the beautifully set adult table. Fancy china. Crystal glasses. Candles glowing softly. It looked warm. Inviting. For a second, I thought maybe, just maybe, this year, they'd finally treat me like an equal. And then, my mom smiled sweetly. "Oh, Maya, honey, why don't you sit at the kids' table?" I froze. It was tucked into the corner. A flimsy plastic table. Paper plates instead of china. Juice boxes instead of wine glasses. And around it, toddlers, screaming, throwing mashed potatoes at each other, completely unaware that I had just been humiliated in front of the entire family. "There's a special spot for you," my mom continued, completely unfazed. I looked back at the adult table. Chris was already seated, laughing with Dad. Amy was fixing her baby's bib, completely comfortable in her spot. And there was my mother, smiling like this was perfectly normal. Like I shouldn't even question it. Like it was obvious I didn't belong with them. I could feel the familiar sting in my chest. The same one I had felt every single year. And then, something inside me snapped. I was done. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just stood up. "Maya," my mom asked, her voice suddenly unsure. I grabbed my coat. I slung it over my shoulder. And I walked straight for the door. "Where are you going?" she asked, her voice now tinged with irritation. I didn't look back. "I'm leaving." The door slammed shut behind me. The cold air hit me like a wave. But I didn't care. Because for the first time, I wasn't letting them do this to me. I drove aimlessly for hours. Angry. Shaking. Heart pounding with a mix of rage and relief. I ended up at a small, quiet diner. Sat alone in a booth. Ordered a warm cup of coffee. And for the first time in years, I felt at peace. Then, my phone buzzed. Over. And over. And over again. "Mom, Maya, where are you? We need to talk. This isn't funny. Chris, this is ridiculous. Where are you? Amy, Mom is freaking out. We just want you back. Dad, come on. Don't act like a child. Get back here." I stared at my screen. And I smirked. Because for the first time in my life, I had the power. They had no idea what was coming. And trust me, they wouldn't like my next move. I sat in that diner, sipping my coffee, phone buzzing with their fake concern. "Mom, Maya, come home. You're embarrassing yourself." "Chris, seriously, just get over it. It's a joke." "Amy, you're acting like a child. Just sit where Mom told you to." "Dad, you're ruining Christmas." I had spent years listening to them talk to me like this. Like I was some helpless kid they could shove aside. Like I wasn't successful in my own right and hadn't earned respect just as much as they had. But now, I saw it for what it was. And I was done playing their game. I picked up my phone. And instead of explaining myself, I sent them one single text. "Enjoy dinner. I won't be treated like an outsider in my own family." Then, I turned my phone on silent. And for the first time, I let them sit in the discomfort they created. I didn't go back that night. I didn't answer their calls. I didn't respond to their guilt trips. And the next morning, the family group chat exploded. Mom, I can't believe you actually left over something so petty. Chris, you embarrassed Mom in front of everyone. Hope you're happy. Amy, seriously, all because of a seat? And my favorite. Dad, if you want to act like you're not part of this family, then fine. Maybe it's better if you just don't come to family gatherings anymore. I stared at my phone, and I smiled, because they thought that was a punishment. Like I would be devastated to not spend another Christmas being treated like a child. Like they thought I would beg to be let back in. But instead, I sent one more message. Sounds perfect. Let's make that official. Then, I left the family group chat. And that's when the real fallout began. For the first few days, it was radio silence. They thought I was bluffing. They thought I'd come crawling back, apologizing for making a scene. But when New Year's Eve came around and I didn't show up, that's when the cracks started forming. Mom called. I ignored it. Amy texted. I left her on read. Chris sent a passive-aggressive, hope you're done sulking message. I deleted it. They had never seen me stand up for myself like this. And suddenly, they didn't know how to handle it. A week later, I got a call from an unexpected person. Grandma. She had always been the only one who truly saw me. And when I answered, she sighed. I heard about what happened. Let me guess, I said, bitterly. They made me sound like the bad guy. Of course they did, she said. But I know better. I felt my chest tighten. You do. Maya, sweetheart. I've watched them do this to you for years. And I always hoped you'd walk away. I felt tears sting my eyes. She wasn't mad at me. She was proud. You deserve better, she said gently. And if they can't see that, then they don't deserve you. And that was the moment I knew I made the right choice. Days passed. Weeks. And then, the real shift happened. Because now that I was gone, my family had lost their scapegoat. And suddenly, the cracks in their perfect image started showing. Chris and Amy started fighting over who was Mom's favorite. Dad started getting frustrated that family time wasn't the same without me. Mom started complaining that things felt off this year. Because for the first time, they couldn't gang up on me. And suddenly, they had to deal with each other. And they hated it. A month later, I got a text from Mom. We miss you. Are you ready to come home? Home. Funny, because I had never felt at home with them. So this time, I didn't fall for it. No thanks. I'm happier without the drama. Her reply came instantly. So that's it? You're just done with us? I thought about it. Then, I responded with the truth. I'm done being treated like I don't matter. If you ever decide to respect me, we can talk. But until then, I'm better off without you. Delivered. Read. No reply. And for the first time in my life, I had the final word. For the first time in my entire life, I wasn't waiting for my family's approval. I wasn't waiting for an apology or for an invitation back. And I wasn't waiting for them to change. Why? Because I had changed. And now, they had no idea how to handle it. At first, they tried to ignore my absence. They had their perfect little family gatherings. They took their Christmas card photos without me. They told themselves I'd come crawling back. But then, the fighting started. Because with me gone, they had no one to gang up on. And suddenly, they had to turn on each other. Chris started arguing with Amy about who was Mom's favorite now. Amy complained that she was doing more for the family than Chris. Dad started getting irritated that family time wasn't the same. Mom started whining that she just wanted things back to normal. And the best part? I wasn't there to fix it. I wasn't the problem. They were. And they were finally seeing it for themselves. A few weeks later, I got a message from Chris. Hey, so Mom wants you to come over for dinner. She says she wants to make things right. I almost laughed. Because I knew exactly what this was. They just wanted to reset the cycle. To bring me back so they could go back to treating me like garbage. So, I tested him. Did she actually say she was sorry for how she treated me? Well, no, but she misses you. Isn't that enough? I stared at my phone, and I smiled. Because now, I had the power. I didn't respond to Chris, but later that night, my phone rang. I didn't have to look at the screen to know it was her. I picked up. Maya, Mom said, her voice sickly sweet. Hi, Mom, I said, neutral. Are you done being dramatic? She sighed. I smirked. Oh, I don't think I'm the dramatic one. She ignored that. We're having family dinner next week. You should come. I leaned back, completely unbothered. Did you want to apologize first? Silence. Then she scoffed. Apologize? For what? I exhaled slowly. For treating me like an outsider in my own family. For putting me at the kids' table. For making me feel like I didn't matter. Her voice snapped into irritation. Oh, come on, Maya. It was just a seat. You're blowing this out of proportion. I laughed, because she still didn't get it. No, Mom, I said, calmly. It was never just about the seat. It was about how you've treated me my entire life. And now, I'm done letting you do it. Silence. Then, so that's it. You're cutting us off, she snapped. I smiled. I'm choosing myself. And then, I hung up, because that was the real ending. Not some dramatic explosion. Not some tearful reconciliation. Just me, walking away with no regrets. That was months ago. Since then, I've built a life without their drama. I've stopped seeking approval from people who don't respect me. I've surrounded myself with people who actually value me. And you know what? It's been the happiest time of my life. And my family? They're still fighting. Because it turns out, I wasn't the problem. They just needed me there to keep pretending they were a perfect family. And now that I was gone, they had to deal with the truth. After that last call with my mama, I expected some pushback. More guilt trips. More fake apologies. More attempts to drag me back in. But instead, I got something even better. Silence. For the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for the next passive-aggressive comment. I wasn't bracing for the next time they'd make me feel small. I wasn't spending holidays pretending to be happy in a place I didn't belong. And honestly, it was the best feeling in the world. Of course, the silence didn't last forever. Because without me, they needed a new target. Chris and Amy started arguing constantly. Mom started complaining that family time wasn't the same anymore. Dad, who had always stayed out of it, suddenly wanted everyone to get along. It turns out, when you remove the scapegoat, the real issues come to the surface. And they had a lot of them. One afternoon, I got a text from Amy. Mom wants us all to have lunch this weekend. Just to talk. I smirked. Because I knew exactly what this was. Not a real apology, not real accountability, and not real change. They just wanted to reset the cycle. To pretend like nothing happened. So I responded, is she going to apologize? Amy took a full hour to respond. I don't think this should be about blame, Maya. Let's just move forward. And that told me everything I needed to know. I didn't even hesitate. Thanks, but I've moved on. I don't need this in my life anymore. Amy's reply was instant. So you're seriously just walking away from the family? And instead of explaining myself, I sent one last message. No, I'm walking toward the peace I never had with you. And then, I blocked her number. Because I wasn't playing their game anymore. That was the moment they knew they lost me. Because I had spent years begging for a seat at their table. And now, I didn't even want it. I wasn't waiting for them to treat me as an equal. I wasn't hoping for a family that would never change. I had finally stopped chasing them. And that was the one thing they never saw coming. Since then, I've been happier than ever. I spend holidays with friends who actually appreciate me. I stopped forcing relationships that drained me. I built a life where I was respected, not tolerated. And my family? They're still stuck in their same toxic cycle. Still arguing. Still pretending. Still refusing to own up to anything. And me? I'm not part of it anymore. Because I realized something. I never needed to fight for their respect. I just needed to walk away. And that was the best decision I ever made. For the first time in my life, I wasn't hoping they'd finally see my worth. I wasn't trying to earn a place in a family that never valued me. And for the first time in their lives, they were finally feeling my absence. And they hated it. Months passed. I spent Easter with friends. A real family. One that laughed without judgment. One that didn't make me feel like a burden. One that welcomed me like I actually belonged. And while I was enjoying my new life, guess who tried to drag me back? Mom. We're hosting a big Easter dinner. You should come. Chris. Mom wants you back. You're making this more dramatic than it needs to be. Amy. Mom's trying to move forward. The least you can do is show up. I almost laughed. Because I knew exactly what this was. Not an apology. Not accountability. Not real change. They just wanted me back so they could go back to treating me the same way. But this time, I wasn't falling for it. I took my time. Let them wait. Then, finally, I sent one message. Did Mom say she was sorry? A long pause. Then, Chris, she just wants to have a nice dinner, Maya. Amy, this shouldn't be about blame. Mom, I don't understand why you're being so difficult. And there it was. They still didn't get it. They wanted me back. But only if I played my role again. Only if I let them pretend everything was fine. Only if I let them treat me like a second-class family member again. So I sent one final message. I've moved on. You should too. Then, I blocked their numbers. And just like that, they were finally forced to live in the mess they created. A month later, I got a call from Grandma. She never took sides. But this time, she had something to say. You know, she sighed, your mom actually cried the other night. I raised an eyebrow. Oh. She said the family doesn't feel the same without you. I let that sink in. Because for years, she made me feel like I didn't belong. She shoved me to the side like I was an afterthought. She treated me like I was less. And now, she wanted to pretend she missed me? I sighed. Did she say she was sorry? Grandma hesitated. No, but I think she finally realizes she messed up. I shook my head. Then it's too late. They thought I needed them. That I'd always come back. That no matter what they did, I'd forgive and forget. That I'd play my part in their perfect family image. But this time, I walked away. And they had to sit in the damage they caused. Chris and Amy still fought over who was Mom's new golden child. Dad complained that family gatherings felt empty now. Mom had to face the ugly truth that she pushed away the one child who actually cared. And me? I wasn't part of it anymore. I was free. Because the best revenge wasn't cutting them off. It was watching them realize that I was never the problem. They were. They thought this was temporary. That I was just being dramatic. That eventually, I'd miss them enough to come crawling back. But instead, I was thriving without them. And for the first time, they were the ones left waiting. Months passed. I stopped checking their social media. I didn't reach out for Mother's Day. I ignored their fake concern messages. And then, Mom, it's your birthday soon. We should celebrate together. I stared at my phone. Because for years, my birthdays were an afterthought to them. I spent them sitting on the sidelines while my siblings got the big celebrations. But now, they suddenly wanted me there? I smirked. Because I knew exactly what this was. A test. To see if they still had control over me. To see if I was still playing their game. And this time, I wasn't playing. I didn't wait. I didn't hesitate. I sent one message. I already have plans. Enjoy your dinner. Delivered. Read. No reply. Because for the first time, she knew. She had no power over me anymore. Grandma called me a few days later. Your mom is upset, she said. Oh, I said, completely unbothered. She doesn't understand why you won't come back. I let out a bitter laugh. She doesn't understand? Or she doesn't want to admit why? Grandma sighed. You really aren't coming back, are you? I smiled. No, Grandma. I'm not. And that was the moment my family realized I was serious. I wasn't waiting for an apology. I wasn't hoping for a change. I wasn't wasting another second on them. I had walked away for good. That was a year ago. Since then, I stopped feeling guilty. I stopped wondering if I made the right choice. I built a life where I was respected, not tolerated. And you know what? I have never been happier. And my family? They're still stuck in their same toxic cycle. Still pretending. Still fighting. Still refusing to own up to anything. And me? I'm not part of it anymore. Because the real power move wasn't cutting them off. It was realizing I was better without them. And that was the greatest victory of all. A year passed. A year of peace. A year of no forced family gatherings. A year of finally choosing myself. And in that year, something incredible happened. I stopped thinking about them. They were no longer the center of my world. Their approval no longer mattered. Their opinions no longer defined me. And for the first time, I was truly free. One day, I got a message from Chris. Mom says she wants to talk. Just hear her out. I stared at my phone. A year ago, I would have dropped everything for that message. But now, I didn't even feel the urge to reply. Because I had already moved on. So I did the one thing they never expected. I ignored it. And the moment I put my phone down, I realized something. This wasn't just cutting them off. This was closing the book. For good. Since then, I've built a life that is truly mine. I spend holidays with my friends who love me like family. I celebrate my birthdays surrounded by real love. I don't waste another second on people who don't deserve me. And my family? They're still stuck in their same cycle. Still pretending. Still waiting for me to come back. Still refusing to own up to anything. And me? I'm happier than ever. Because the best revenge wasn't cutting them off. It was proving I never needed them in the first place. And that was the real victory.